We didn't build a factory. We didn't do what Solyndra did. We didn't try to do something that violated the law of physics. Rather, we took a technology that could fit into the existing process and make solar cells a little bit more efficient, and we got a nice venture return by doing so.
Great, thanks. So I hear from a lot of Israeli entrepreneurs that the money is just not enough money here in Israel to get their companies off the ground. And how can they find money? How can they go to the US and find more money to build the companies out? Or maybe it's the Asian markets they can be looking at. What do you respond to that? Is the economy impacting these decisions? What's your response to those entrepreneurs?
This is Shmil. I think that we have done last year 7 investments, and we hope to do more. I think that in the beginning of like 2000, there were probably too much money on the ground, which I don't talk about the VC return, etc. It means that too many companies that were supposed not to be financed got money, which is bad to the entrepreneur as well to the VC. So you want to look at it as someone that was entrepreneur from the entrepreneur side. If you have an idea that is not necessarily good, it's not a bad thing that you didn't get finance. Because from a VC point of view, you have a portfolio. You put 10 investments, few will go and few will not. For you as an entrepreneur, it's 1 or 0. So you better pick up very carefully what you are going to invest. And I think that there is a lot of money on the ground in Israel. And I think it's good sometimes that in order for you to get the money, you are challenged by making sure that it's something that, I'm not talking in Israel on technology, always technology work, but does it really solve a real need in the market? And this is a question that is very hard to answer many times from Israel, but this is where you should focus.
Will Sequoia go early stage? It's uncharacteristic in the US for Sequoia to be too early stage, but will you do early stage here?
So we have done, just out of the 7 investments that we have done last year, 4 of them were people with presentation first money. So I think
you were going to be mobbed.
As early as you can have. And 4 of them were with 2 people, a group of 2 people with great idea and probably great slides. So
you heard it. So you're going to be mobbed on the way out of here. Patrick, is the typical IV model here in Israel as well to acquire the patents, acquire the technology, and
Yeah, I think what I spend most of my time on is actually working collaboratively with inventors before the idea comes to articulate market opportunities and to work with them to come up with the invention and then to figure out how to develop it and in what countries have the biggest markets. So it's very early stage. It's typically before venture capital comes into the picture.
And you're not putting fear in the hearts of people here like you were in the very beginning in the U.S.
Yeah, no, I don't, fear is a very personal emotion, so I wouldn't pretend to sort of get into that. No, we're about opportunity and invention and just increasing the marketplace for inventors. It's very much what Thomas Edison was doing very successfully in Menlo Park, New Jersey in the late 1800s, but for some reason, no one has really tried to do that since. Everyone became too hyper-specialized.
Erik, on the bio side, are you also you're investing here in Israel, early stage as well?
We're looking for late preclinical drugs, things that we can do a virtual drug development in an accelerated fashion and sell it to pharma in phase 2A before you have to tango with the FDA. So we're trying to be quick, accelerated, virtual, and not try to build a company which is, as I said on the other panel, sort of anti-venture. We're turning it on its head. Venture is management, build a big company. I think biotech has failed because they've been trying to build companies and become the next Genentech. I think that's pretty difficult to do. And just feed that pipeline that big pharma needs drastically.
What do each of you think about the kind of booming IPO market for tech companies? All of a sudden, it's opened up a whole new exit channel. LinkedIn, Pandora, Groupon, the upcoming Facebook, which I'm pretty excited about. How has that impacted your investment decisions? Has it made life a little more exciting?
I think that it's most and for all a message to the many Israeli entrepreneurs, which is, as I started, make sure in the beginning that you solve a real problem that many people need, and try to avoid selling your company too soon, which means IPO is definitely a road that you should follow, and then sometimes great M&A opportunity come up and you may say yes, but focus on building a company to IPO. It's, as I just need Carlos to be here 72 hours, because after 36, he picked the most important part, which is let's build sustainable large company in Israel. I just was wonder after 72 hours, but he was exactly that on the nail, which is for Israel, for the VC community of money, and mostly for the entrepreneur, the dreams that should come true, and it was done not enough in Israel, it's let's go all the way and take company IPO. And I'm very excited that the IPO market is an alternative, because it's at least give alternative to the entrepreneur in Israel. Let's build a company for IPO.
Yeah, when you and I did a panel here last year, it wasn't even in the picture, the IPO. So things have changed dramatically. What about you? I guess on your end, it's probably more the M&A path than...
Well, at least on the pharma side, but it's nice to have the IPO market open. I don't know if it's quite a boom. I mean, we've had a handful, so I wouldn't call it a boom yet.
Better than it's been.
But the IPO is the best alternative to a negotiation that doesn't work with your M&A partners. And even though a lot of these corporations are sitting on cash, they still want to pay pennies on the dollar. And there's a lot of companies out there, $100 million in revenue, profitable, that their exit opportunities are limited. And,
we are not investing in pharma. You can do great money because you cannot take public company. We want to invest in companies that can go public, which is different.
We just had a couple companies go public this in last season, but in IT, we have more than just biotech.
Yes, yes.
But biotech, the best opportunity is probably M&A right now.
Does it impact your investments at all? I guess it doesn't, Patrick, because you're investing more to create a portfolio.
Yeah, although we actually do have several startups. We've got a startup called TerraPower, which is kind of reinventing the nuclear power business that we've invested with venture capitalists such as Charles River and Vinod's firm. So we're very interested in the IPO markets also for that portion of our business. But I will say, one of the mistakes that venture capitalists make over and over again is they overcorrect. They react to short-term events and they make long-term decisions based on those short-term events. Who cares what the IPO market is today if I'm doing a seed investment, where traditionally seed investments take anywhere from 5 to 10 years to mature? Now, if you're doing later stage investing in a round C or a round D, well, okay, then you think about it. But it is funny when I see early stage venture capitalists talking about the IPO market and how that changes their strategy. That's nonsense.
I don't think it is. I disagree that it is. You want me to challenge, because I think it's a state of mind of how you build a company. And I'm here in Israel, and most of the exits are M&A. And many entrepreneurs come with the idea, let's optimize building the company for M&A. I know will be my partner. Let's go to the corporate and get some money. They will know me. They will buy me. If you have the alternative to build a company, standalone company for IPO, I believe the M&A will be better as well as IPO. So I think that even if you invest early stage, the state of mind, the DNA, the way you build your management team, the way you build your product, the alternative of IPO is critical, and you have to think about it from day one.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. My only point was just because the NASDAQ is doing well today doesn't mean it's going to do well tomorrow or vice versa. So to your point, always build your company such that you're going to take it public. Okay. And this way, if the window is open, you can. If the window isn't open, you can keep funding it through profits or do an M&A at the time. But you'll get a higher price for the M&A, as Erik pointed out.
That's true. I find from my perspective, for advising clients, the mere fact that the IPO is a potential exit adds a little bit in the terms of the M&A valuation discussion. Makes it a little more exciting. What about cross-border work? I know a company that starts off in Israel often looks outside of Israel to grow its business. My sense was the U.S. used to be one of the primary markets these companies would be targeting. My sense now that it's the U.S., it's Asia, it's India, what are you seeing, what are you advising companies here in Israel to be doing on that?
First, my advice is build a global company. And the trend in the world are in favor of Israel, because as I sit at Sequoia, I see many companies from China, India, Israel, and US. And the US companies are very US-centric. And the China companies are trying to target the Chinese market and India mostly except outsource the Indian market. And I think the advantage of Israel is that it's a lot easier for Israeli entrepreneur to move and address the Chinese market than it is for American entrepreneur, because we go outside anyway. So start by building the company on a global basis. Depend on the sectors that you are. Few sectors stay in Israel as a management. Few sectors move one of the founders to US. As Sequoia, we have a practice how you do it to move to US with a lot of help of our partner in US. And many of them make focus on the Far East. And I think the opportunity in the Far East is only in the beginning. And as people say, we have to look for 5-10 years. The importance of China and India will be a lot more than it is today. And we know what happened in Europe, so I'm very happy we don't have a Sequoia in Europe. But it's not by mistake. It's where the trend of the world are very clear when you look at it. So I think the basic idea is don't try to be dogmatic. I'm staying in Israel, try to be closer to the market and depend on the sector. A few of them will be US. Few of them will be India, and we sold the company Provision to Broadcom. Customer number 1 was Huawei, and number 3 was ZTE. And it's a very big change. They had a lot of sales. They were sold for $340 million, but it's a huge change compared to 10 years ago that you didn't dream that customer number 1 and 3 will be from China. And the world is changing, and please be flexible, adapt to it, and think globally.
Are you seeing an influx of investments from Chinese investors, venture funds?
I think it is the beginning. There are many delegations from China coming to Israel to look for Israeli technology. There is a center of R&D of Huawei in Israel, which is, I think, the first place outside of China for Huawei is Israel. The same place for Apple. It's also Israel. So I think everybody appreciates the Israeli innovation and R&D, but our job as Israeli is to build large and sustainable companies.
Erik, do you find you're bringing companies from Israel into the U.S. versus the U.S. for CMEA, the U.S. is a target market?
Well, I think just following on that, Israel is probably the most advanced in thinking in the venture community with putting their CEO and biz dev individual in the United States and keeping the R&D here, where I guess per capita it's 10 times the amount of engineers than any other nation, which is just incredible, truly an innovative country. So I think they've done that very smart, very good, and they're keeping that model. I think other countries need to do the same, because in the U.S. there's a lot of reluctancy to invest in a foreign company. It doesn't even matter if it's in France, just because of the laws are so quite different. And they say it's the Far East. They should probably call it the Wild West, because it's still pretty an interesting, wild, young market.
Panel.avi also is, it sounds from what you were saying earlier that you're really going more global with things. So companies here, there are technologies here that you're working with in Israel. How are you telling them to grow and build out?
Yeah, I think just echo the comments that you guys just said. There's no excuse not to be a global company from day one, although, we love the United States and it's a big country and all that. If you look at the growth rates, as the printing presses in the basement of the White House turn 24 hours a day, the U.S. dollar is being debased and the deficits are going up, and the U.S. GDP is just an increasingly smaller percentage of the world GDP. Now, yeah, Silicon Valley is still great, but only, 20% of the world's GDP is in the U.S.? So that means 80% of the GDP is outside the U.S. And on day one, you can do a multinational startup because it's cheap. 20 years ago, it wasn't. But a startup can use Gmail for free, Skype video for free. Your comm costs are zero, at least in the beginning. And, most of your engineers and your talent are from all around the world anyway, regardless of where they may be residing at that point in time.
All right, let's talk a little bit about trends. So it's kind of nice because we have the bio discussion here. We can talk a little bit about different industries. What do you see as being the hot industries now? And the venture market is so much a flavor of the month. What do you see as being the hot areas?
I think the social graph of yourself, of the individual, and just monitoring your health and things that are coming through simple things like the Up Jawbone band monitors your sleep, your eating, and your activity, I think that information on the individual is going to be a really big market.
Healthcare IT is what you're talking about. It's the hottest thing I'm seeing in the U.S. right now. Lots of stuff going on with that.
That's a Sequoia investment, too.
Yeah.
Yes, we just, which is new from last year, we started to invest in medical device, not in pharma. And medical device, it's a new domain for us, and part of it is because industry in Israel mature in medical device, which was not the case 10 years ago, and innovation are amazing. And the second part, exactly what you say, we see a lot more collaboration between classical IT, whether it's wireless or other device, or just communication and cloud into healthcare. And this area that on a worldwide basis, we expanded our investment to include the medical device, which is new for us here in Israel in the last 12 months. I think more than this, big change that I see, we are in as was talked in the previous one, the change in the world is accelerating, and people underestimate the effect of what happened to cloud, to organization. And I mean, you are going to charge for storage, network, computer power, like you do for electricity, which is very different. So we talk about the world being global, no matter if you are in China or India or Israel or US. I say your company is actually on the cloud, in between. So it's total virtuality. And there are many virtualization companies that are amazing technology out of Israel. And I think the change that is a result of the cloud is true for organization and individual. We have nice investment in Dropbox, which change a lot of how people use backup, etc. I think we are in the beginning of the change, which is going and it will accelerate a lot more. And interdisciplinary will be a lot more. We talked about healthcare and IT, but think about totally different data centers that will be floating in the cloud instead of in a physical domain.
I always look at intellectual ventures as being one of on the cutting edge, really, of IP. What are you looking at? What are you betting on?
Yeah, so, look, I'm going to give you a tip about something that's not hot now, because anyone can do that. I'm going to give you a tip about what's going to be hot soon, and I'm just going to be provocative, and maybe it's just weird. But 2 words, animal health. Okay, and let me just talk about that just for a few quick sentences. What do I mean by that? Well, you segment the market into 3 areas: pets, sporting animals like horses, and farm animals. And if you actually look at the underlying revenue in all of those 3 markets worldwide, they're increasing, especially in the developing world. It's incredible. The first thing people want to do once they've satisfied their basic needs of food and shelter is they want a pet. And if you actually look at the numbers in China and India, how those markets are rising, and people are irrational when they spend money on their pets. I'm a pet owner. You would not believe how much money I've spent on my dogs. It's crazy. But it's a great market because you don't have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about regulators, right? In the United States, the FDA and the trial lawyers and the government are essentially putting the life science industry out of business, albeit slowly. But you don't have to worry about that when you're dealing with animal health. And finally, just to be a little more provocative to wake everyone up, I'm sure we have some medical doctors in the audience, right? Many of my friends and family are medical doctors. We probably don't have too many veterinary medical doctors, doctors that take care of animals. Who is smarter? If you look at IQ scores and SAT scores of students going to vet school, it's vets. And why? For 2 main reasons. If you're a medical doctor, it's easy, your job, because your patient comes in and speaks English or speaks whatever language in the country you're in, and it's one species. A vet has to deal with multiple species, and their patients don't talk. So they're incredibly creative, they're incredibly innovative, and increasingly more medical technology is being deployed in animals first and then in humans. And I don't mean testing. Of course you have animal testing and then humans. I mean actual technology that can't get into humans because the lawyers and the regulators are finding their way into animals. And slowly but surely we'll be putting that into humans. And it's very similar to the talk we heard this morning, where technologies now are starting in the consumer and going into business instead of vice versa. So maybe I'm wrong, but if 3 or 4 or 5 years from now you make a lot of money in animal health, please remember this conference.
I never would have bet on that. This is the first panel, I haven't heard anything about crowdsourcing, user-generated content.
Big data.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
yesterday's news, man. We talked about that 10 years ago.
so is that what it is? Are you starting to view the fact that the trend, you feel the trend is moving away from that? There's always the, making advertising more efficient, the retailer to consumer contact. None of that. Not betting on any of that?
It's nice as provocative, and it's okay to go this way. We probably invest in other area, which is good. We'll not compete on the same deal.
All right, real quick, the last couple of minutes. If each of you could just very quickly say what a piece of advice you would give the entrepreneurs, first of all, to do and what not to do. Go ahead, Shmil. I knew you'd be first.
Yes. So my advice to the entrepreneur is believe in what you do. Venture capital don't know a lot, so believe in what you do. But coming out of Israel, make sure you are solving a real problem. It's very easy for Apple to create a change of behavior. It's a lot harder for a startup to do it. And try to think about a problem that is really enough to create a very large company. And don't focus on exit from day one. Focus on building company. Once you are there, everything will be solved for you.
What not to do?
And not to do, don't try to optimize on the day one the way that your deal is. You are not optimizing the money structure of the money that you take. You are selecting a business partner when you raise money, no matter if it's an angel or Israeli VC or American VC or what have you. When you take someone money and you give him part of your company, you actually adopted the partner. So think about this way, which is sum of maturity, and you cannot just think that you took money from someone and he will be in the shadow and nothing will happen, you continue what to do. So do very carefully your due diligence from whom you take money. And this should be as important as you select your co-founder of the company, and be very diligent about it. And be careful, the VC are doing due diligence, do it yourself. And just don't go to the optimization. This gives me 2.5 valuation, this 2.7, 2.7 is better, I'm going this way. Do one more step to your benefit.
Thanks. Erik?
I would say bootstrap till you feel your feet are being bound, and just always ask for money when you don't need it.
Great advice.
Thing that they do wrong is focus on the valuation, as you said. And higher valuations means you have to target a higher exit when you have VC investors.
Yeah, all the above, and most startups don't fail because the technology didn't work or because the market wasn't there. They fail because of bad decisions made by people. So as an entrepreneur, be careful who you team up with, be careful who you hire, be careful what VCs you work with, be careful which board members you hire, because typically when you look at failed companies, it's usually because of a decision made by a person that torches the investment.
And we have too much money, so don't hesitate to come and take it.
All right, you heard it here. All right. Thank you, panel. You were terrific. Thanks.
He also grew up in Germany but served in the IDF. More importantly, what he's going to say, and I know what he's going to talk about, genuinely will earn the people in this room $1 million or more if you listen carefully.